At exactly 11:43 last night, my phone lit up on the nightstand. I remember because I had just drifted off after scrolling through emails for too long, the kind of tired where you don't even want to move. When I saw the name flash across the screen, my heart gave a strange jolt. It was Lydia Monroe, my neighbor. Lydia never calls me. We usually just wave at each other when we're pulling out of the driveway or maybe exchange a quick hello at the mailbox. So seeing her name at that hour instantly told me something was wrong. I swiped to answer, pressing the phone against my ear. Her voice came out shaking, breathless, on the verge of tears. She didn't even say hello. She just whispered, almost like she didn't want anyone to hear her. "Sam, don't start your car tomorrow morning. Please, just don't." And then, the line went dead. No explanation, no follow-up, just silence. I sat up straight in bed, staring at my phone, my pulse racing. "Mom?" I heard a voice from the doorway. It was Ethan, my 11-year-old son, squinting with sleep still in his eyes. He must have woken up when I answered. "Who was that?" I forced a smile that didn't match the icy knot forming in my stomach. "It was just Ms. Monroe," I said. "Go back to bed, sweetheart." But my voice wavered, and Ethan caught it. His brow furrowed, curious but too tired to push further. He yawned and shuffled back to his room. That left me alone in the dim glow of my bedside lamp, staring at the silent phone in my hand. What on earth did Lydia mean? Don't start my car? Why? Was it a prank? A mistake? Or something much darker? I tried calling her back, once, twice, 3 times, straight to voicemail every single time. Each unanswered ring pulled my stomach lower. By then, my mom, Carol, had appeared in the hallway, her robe pulled tight around her. "Who keeps calling this late?" she asked, her voice sharper, protective, the way it always gets when something feels off. "Lydia," I said quietly. "She told me not to start my car in the morning." Then she hung up. My mom froze, processing. "What? That doesn't make any sense. Did she sound drunk?" I shook my head. No, she sounded terrified. Carol's face darkened with worry. She's always been quick to assume the worst, but this time I couldn't dismiss it. I felt it too. Still, I tried to rationalize. Maybe Lydia had car trouble herself and meant to call roadside assistance but dialed me by mistake. Maybe she was half asleep, confused and embarrassed. But deep down, I knew better. There was something in her tone, the raw panic in her voice, that wasn't random. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house set my nerves on edge. I kept replaying Lydia's words. "Don't start your car tomorrow morning." It wasn't just a warning, it sounded like a plea. When the sun finally began to rise, I felt the weight of exhaustion pulling at me, but adrenaline kept me sharp. I padded to the window and peeked out at the driveway. My car sat there, ordinary as ever. Nothing looked unusual. No broken glass, no strange shadows, just the same white SUV I drove every day. But I couldn't shake it. The fear, the urgency in Lydia's voice. And that's when I made my decision. I was going to open the front door. I was going to look for myself. And that's when the story truly began. Because the moment I stepped outside, the crisp morning air biting against my skin, I saw it. Underneath my car, just visible from the edge of the driveway, were wires dangling loosely beneath the engine. And in that instant, Lydia's voice rang in my head again, louder than ever. "Don't start your car." I live in what most people would call an ordinary suburban neighborhood. 2-story homes lined up with neatly trimmed hedges, mailboxes that all look the same, and streets that go quiet by 9 p.m. It's the kind of place where you know your neighbors by name, but not by secrets, and that's always made me feel safe. My house sits at the end of a cul-de-sac in Colorado, right beside Lydia Monroe's place. Lydia's been here about 5 years, divorced, raising 2 cats and a garden she's far more dedicated to than I could ever be. We aren't best friends, but she's always been kind. The kind of neighbor who leaves zucchini on your porch when her garden explodes in summer, or waves when she sees Ethan shooting hoops in the driveway. Ethan, my 11-year-old, is the center of my world. He's curious in ways that both amaze and exhaust me. He asks questions about everything. Why the moon changes shape, why birds don't get lost when they migrate, why the neighbor across the street always carries grocery bags with both hands instead of using a cart. Sometimes I laugh, sometimes I sigh, But secretly, I love that about him. Then there's my mom, Carol. After my dad passed, she moved in with us, and honestly, I don't know what I'd do without her. She helps pick up Ethan from soccer, keeps the laundry from swallowing me whole, and makes sure we sit down to real dinners even on the craziest days. But she's also intense, protective. She sees danger where I see routine, and she's not shy about telling me what she thinks. That night before Lydia's call, life had been normal, predictable, safe. Dinner was spaghetti. Ethan slurped his noodles too loud, and Mom gave him that classic grandma look, the one with raised eyebrows and lips pressed so tight they could cut glass. Ethan grinned like he always does when he knows he's getting under her skin. "Ethan Keller," she scolded, "you're not a vacuum cleaner." "Grandma, it's the Italian way," he declared, twirling his fork dramatically. I nearly choked laughing. After dinner, Ethan sprawled across the living room floor with his math homework while I rinsed dishes. Mom flipped through TV channels until she landed on the news. Lately, the headlines had been filled with stories about car break-ins and rising crime in towns just a few miles over. Mom shook her head at the screen. "It's getting worse every week, Sam. You need to be careful. Lock your doors. Keep the garage shut. Don't ignore this." I wiped my hands on a towel and gave her a tired smile. "Mom, it's not like that here. This neighborhood is safe." She didn't look convinced. "That's what people always say, until it isn't." I brushed it off, though her words lodged in the back of my mind, because I wanted to believe we were safe. I needed to believe it, for Ethan's sake and for my own sanity. Later, after homework and showers, I tucked Ethan in. He asked if we could go hiking that weekend. I promised we would, weather permitting. He grinned sleepily and mumbled, "Okay, Mom, night." I lingered at his doorway, just watching him breathe. That's the thing about being a single mom. Every promise feels heavy, like you're carrying the whole world on your shoulders. And in that moment, with him safe in bed, I felt like I was doing all right. By 11 p.m., the house had gone quiet. The dishwasher hummed, the dog barked once down the street, and Mom had gone to bed with her mystery novel. I sat in my own room, scrolling aimlessly on my phone. Nothing about that night felt unusual. Nothing warned me that, minutes later, everything would change. When Lydia's call came at 11:43, it was like a stone thrown into perfectly still water, shattering the calm, breaking the illusion. The sound of her trembling voice, "Don't start your car tomorrow morning," pulled me out of the comfort of my normal world and into something darker. And as I lay awake afterward, staring at the ceiling, every detail of the evening replayed in my mind. Mom's warning about crime, Lydia's garden light still glowing faintly across the lawn. The shadow I thought I saw move near the edge of her fence, though I told myself it was just the wind. The neighborhood hadn't changed, but I had. Because once you hear fear in someone's voice like that, you can't go back to pretending everything is safe. That night, I realized something. Normal is just a thin layer of glass, and sometimes all it takes is one phone call to shatter it completely. To Why This Works grounds the story in relatable everyday life, family dinner, schoolwork, neighborhood safety. Introduces characters in depth, Sam, Ethan, Carol, Lydia, so the audience cares about them. Plants subtle foreshadowing with Mom's warnings and news reports. Ends by circling back to the call, reinforcing the transition from calm to fear. Imi faijantinisat. Do you want me to expand Section 3, the conflict, rising tension, next into 700 words, showing Sam's morning discovery and how the fear escalates? You said yes. Expand Section 3 and do it in 700 words. ChatGPT said, great choice. Section 3 is where the tension really begins to rise, and the audience shifts from curiosity to fearful anticipation. This part should feel suspenseful, unnerving, and emotionally charged, while still being realistic. Here's the full 700-word expansion for Section 3, the conflict, rising tension. YouTube storytelling script, Section 3, the conflict. When dawn broke the next morning, the first thing I felt wasn't sunlight. It was the heaviness in my chest. The memory of Lydia's voice whispering in terror, "Don't start your car tomorrow morning." I hadn't slept more than an hour. My eyes burned, my body felt sluggish, but adrenaline pushed me forward. Something deep inside me told me that if I ignored her warning, I might never forgive myself. The house was still quiet. Mom was making coffee in the kitchen, the smell drifting down the hall. Ethan was already awake, sitting cross-legged at the table with a bowl of cereal. He looked up at me with his boyish smile, but then frowned when he saw my face. "Mom, you okay?" I didn't answer right away. I just slipped on my sweater and walked toward the front door, my steps heavier than usual. "Sam?" Mom's voice followed me. "What are you doing?" I need to check something," I said, hand on the doorknob. Mom put her mug down sharply. "Wait, are you talking about what Lydia said? Because that didn't make sense. Maybe she was drunk or maybe she was dreaming." But her words couldn't drown out the thrum in my chest. I opened the door anyway. The air was crisp and cold, the kind of Colorado morning that bites at your skin even through layers. I stepped onto the porch, scanning the yard. Everything looked normal. The cul-de-sac was quiet, just as it always was. Birds flitted between branches, and a light frost glittered on the grass. For a second, I wondered if I was being paranoid. Maybe I had blown this out of proportion. Maybe there was nothing. But then I turned my eyes toward the driveway. My SUV sat there, dew clinging to the windshield. At first glance, nothing seemed off. But as I got closer, my stomach tightened. Bending slightly, I caught sight of something that didn't belong. Thin, dark wires dangling from beneath the engine. I froze. The world seemed to narrow until all I could see was that tangle of wires swaying slightly in the morning air. My throat went dry. My knees felt weak. Lydia's warning thundered in my head again. "Don't start your car." Behind me, the screen door creaked. "Sam?" Mom's voice cracked, sharp and urgent. She stepped out, followed by Ethan, still clutching his half-eaten cereal bowl. "What is it?" she asked, moving closer, until she saw it too. Her hands flew to her mouth. "Oh my God." Ethan set his bowl down on the porch rail, eyes wide. "What's wrong with the car?" I turned to him, trying to sound calm, though my voice shook. "Ethan, stay back. Don't come closer." He tilted his head, confused, but obeyed. His little hands gripped the railing, knuckles white. Mom whispered, "Sam, we need to call the police. Right now." "I know," I said, already fumbling for my phone. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped it. As the line rang, I glanced back at the driveway. Something about the way the wires hung, intentional, deliberate, made my blood run cold. This wasn't wear and tear. This wasn't some random piece coming loose. Someone had been here. Someone had tampered with my car. The 911 dispatcher answered, her calm tone a sharp contrast to the chaos swirling inside me. I explained quickly, trying to keep my voice steady. "My name is Samantha Keller. I live at 402 Valley Crest. My neighbor called me last night to warn me not to start my car. This morning I found wires hanging from under the engine. Please, I need someone here now." The dispatcher promised an officer would arrive shortly. I hung up, clutching the phone like a lifeline. Mom grabbed my arm. "Sam, this wasn't random. Someone was on our property last night while we were sleeping." Her words sent a chill through me, because she was right. The thought of a stranger crouched in my driveway while Ethan slept in the next room made my stomach twist in knots. And then another thought hit me even harder. Lydia knew. She knew something, and that's why she called. But why hadn't she answered since? Why had she sounded so terrified? I looked at her house across the street, curtains drawn, no movement. The garden light still on from the night before. A wave of unease washed over me. "Mom, stay inside with Ethan," I said firmly. "Lock the doors. Don't let him out of your sight." She stared at me. "Sam, what are you doing?" "I need to check on Lydia," I said. She wouldn't have called me like that unless she saw something, unless she knew something. "Sam, no, wait for the police." But I was already halfway down the driveway, every step heavier than the last. My eyes flicked back once more at those wires. Evidence that someone had crossed a line, that danger wasn't just a story on the evening news anymore. I had no idea what I would find at Lydia's house, but I knew one thing. The safe, ordinary life I thought I had was gone. And the fear in her voice last night, it was only the beginning. I stood frozen at the edge of the driveway staring at Lydia's house. My phone felt heavy in my hand, the dispatcher's calm voice still echoing in my ears. Officers were on their way, but I couldn't just wait. Not when Lydia was the one who had warned me, not when she had gone silent since. The morning air was sharper now, or maybe it was my nerves tightening every muscle in my body. My mind replayed her. Whisper on the phone, trembling, urgent. "Don't start your car tomorrow morning." What did she see? What did she know? Behind me, Mom's voice cracked with panic. "Sam, please, don't go over there. Just wait for the police." I turned back to her. Ethan stood beside her on the porch, his cereal bowl abandoned, his eyes wide and anxious. He didn't say anything, but the way he looked at me, like I was his shield, his safe place, made the decision harder. But I knew I couldn't let fear paralyze me. If Lydia had risked calling me, she must have been in danger herself. "I'll be careful," I promised. "Lock the doors. Stay with Ethan." Mom shook her head furiously. "You don't know what's out there." I gave her one last look, then turned and crossed the street. Every step toward Lydia's house felt heavier, like my shoes were made of lead. The cul-de-sac was eerily still. No cars pulling out for work, no joggers, no neighbors watering their lawns, just silence. Lydia's house looked the same as it had last night. Curtains drawn, porch light still faintly glowing even in daylight. A garden hose coiled neatly on the lawn, water droplets frozen in the morning chill. Everything looked too still. I knocked on her front door hard enough to echo. "Lydia, it's Sam." Nothing. I tried again, louder this time. "Lydia, are you there? Please open the door." Still nothing. I pressed my ear against the wood, straining to hear anything inside. No footsteps, no TV, no voices, just silence. A sick feeling twisted in my gut. I walked slowly along her porch, peering through a gap in the curtains. It was dark inside, shadows swallowing most of the room. I thought I saw movement, but it could have been my own reflection. That's when I noticed something else. Faint impressions in the soil near her side gate. I crouched, my breath visible in the cold air. Muddy footprints, fresh, leading from her driveway around the side of the house toward the woods behind our cul-de-sac. I swallowed hard, my heart thundering. Someone had been here, recently. A sudden noise made me whip around, the sound of a car door shutting somewhere down the street. My pulse spiked, but when I scanned the road, I saw nothing. Just quiet houses, windows reflecting the pale morning light. I turned back to Lydia's house, hesitating. Should I go around back? Should I try the door? Every instinct screamed at me to retreat, to wait for the police. But then I remembered the fear in her voice, the way she had hung up, like she was afraid of being overheard. I took a step toward the gate. Before I could push it open, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was Lydia. For a split second, relief washed over me. I answered immediately, my voice shaky. "Lydia, where are you? Are you okay?" What came through the speaker was barely more than a whisper. She was crying. "Sam," she gasped, "you can't stay outside. He was at your car last night. He's been watching your house. Please, go back inside." Her words hit me like ice water. "Who, Lydia? Who's watching us?" But before she could answer, there was a sharp click, and the line went dead again. My hands shook as I lowered the phone. My eyes swept across the street, scanning yards, rooftops, windows. Every shadow felt like it was hiding someone. Mom was still on the porch across the street, clutching Ethan's shoulders. I could see the terror in her face even from here. I backed away from Lydia's gate, my instincts screaming now. She wasn't safe, and neither were we. At that moment, a police cruiser turned into the cul-de-sac, lights flashing silently. Relief surged through me. But it was tangled with dread, because I knew this wasn't over. Lydia had given me part of the truth. Someone had tampered with my car. Someone had been watching my family, and if Lydia was right, then whoever it was could be watching us right now. The sight of the police cruiser pulling into our cul-de-sac should have brought me peace, but instead, it filled me with a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief, because finally someone else was here to face whatever this was. Dread, because if officers had to be involved, then the danger was real. 2 officers stepped out of the car, one older, calm and deliberate, the other younger, scanning the street with sharp, alert eyes. The older officer approached me first. "Are you Samantha Keller?" I nodded, hugging myself to stop my hands from trembling. "You reported suspicious tampering with your vehicle?" "Yes," I said, my voice tight. "It's in my driveway. There are wires hanging underneath. My neighbor called me last night, told me not to start it. Then she hung up. I think she's in danger too." The younger officer glanced toward my house, where Mom and Ethan stood at the window, faces pale with worry. "Let's take a look," he said. We walked together to the SUV. I stood back while they crouched beneath the engine. For a long, excruciating moment, neither of them spoke. Then the older officer straightened, his face grim. "This isn't just damage," he said. "Your fuel line's been cut. And these wires, they were rigged to spark when the ignition turned over." The words slammed into me. I whispered, "Are you saying someone tried to blow up my car?" He nodded, his tone heavy. "Yes, if you'd started it this morning, the vehicle could have caught fire. It's a deliberate setup." The world tilted. My knees threatened to give out. My car, the one I drove Ethan to school in every day, had been turned into a weapon against me, against us. The younger officer's eyes flicked toward Lydia's house. "You said your neighbor warned you. Do you know why?" "I don't," I admitted, swallowing hard. "But she called again this morning. She sounded terrified. She said someone had been watching my house." Then the call cut off. The officers exchanged a look. "Stay here," the older one ordered. "We'll check on your neighbor." I wanted to follow, but the weight of his voice made it clear I should stay put. So I stood at the edge of my driveway, watching them approach Lydia's porch. They knocked, called her name, circled the house. My pulse pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. Finally, after several tense minutes, the younger officer waved me over. Against every instinct screaming inside me, I hurried across the street. They'd gotten Lydia on the phone. She was crying, her words jumbled, but finally the truth spilled out. "He's back," she whispered through the speaker. "I saw him last night. He was by Sam's car. I didn't know what to do. I was so scared. I thought if I warned her, maybe it would keep her safe." "Who's back, Lydia?" the officer pressed. Her breath hitched. "His name is Mark, my ex. I left him 3 years ago. I filed a restraining order, but he never let go. He started showing up here again, at night, in the yard, outside my windows. I thought he was just trying to scare me. But last night, I saw him crouched by Sam's car." A chill shot through me. "Why my car?" I demanded. "Why not yours?" There was silence on the line. Then Lydia whispered, "Because he knows we're friends. He knows I care about you. He wanted me to watch. He wanted me to know he could hurt anyone close to me." The younger officer clenched his jaw. "We've had reports of him in the county before. Violent behavior. If his prints are on that car, we'll have what we need to go after him." I wrapped my arms tighter around myself, shivering though the sun had risen high. My neighbor's nightmare had spilled into my driveway, into my life, into my family's safety. The older officer turned to me, his voice firm. "You and your family need to stay inside until we finish processing this. We'll put out an alert for him, but understand something, Miss Keller. If you had turned that key this morning, you and your son wouldn't be here." The words cut through me like glass. I thought of Ethan's cereal bowl still sitting on the porch rail, the way he had asked, "Mom, is someone trying to hurt us?" The horrifying truth was yes, someone had. As the officers began roping off the area around my SUV, I stepped back toward my porch. Mom opened the door, Ethan hovering behind her. She searched my face, looking for reassurance, but I couldn't give it. Not yet. Because as shaken as I was, I knew this wasn't the end. Lydia's ex wasn't just some shadow. He was out there, real and dangerous, and he had already crossed one line. Now every shadow in my neighborhood felt alive. Every sound made me wonder if he was near, watching, waiting. And though the police were here, one thought consumed me: how close I had come to losing everything. The police stayed most of that morning. They took photos of my car, dusted for fingerprints, and logged every detail. Officers asked questions over and over, each one making the reality sink deeper into my bones. Someone had planned to hurt us, not just vandalize or scare us, hurt us. When they finally towed my SUV away, the cul-de-sac looked strangely empty, quiet but not peaceful anymore. It felt violated. Inside the house, Mom paced the kitchen like a caged animal. Ethan sat at the table, unusually silent, fiddling with the little plastic dinosaur he always carried in his pocket. My strong, curious boy looked smaller that morning, his shoulders tense, eyes darting between me and the window. I knelt beside him, gently taking his hands in mine. "Hey," I whispered, "you're safe. You hear me? You're safe." He looked up at me, his eyes wide and searching. "But Mom, what if he comes back?" The question gutted me. How could I promise him it would never happen again, when deep down I wasn't sure myself? Before I could answer, Mom spoke sharply from across the room. "This is exactly what I've been saying. You can't assume safety just because we live in a nice neighborhood. You need to take this seriously, Sam. He's dangerous." Her voice cracked on that last word. I turned to her, seeing the fear etched deep into her face. For once, I didn't argue, because she was right. That afternoon, Lydia finally came over. She looked like a ghost, pale, trembling, her eyes swollen from crying. When she stepped into my living room, she didn't even try to hide it. She broke down, sobbing, and I caught her in my arms. "I'm so sorry," she choked out. "I should have gone to the police sooner. I should have told you everything. I was just so scared. I didn't want to drag you into my mess." I held her tighter. "Lydia, you didn't drag me in. He did. You saved me. You saved Ethan. If you hadn't called, I would have started that car this morning." The truth of that hit both of us like a wave. She squeezed me harder, and for the first time, I realized how heavy her silence had been all those months. She'd been carrying her fear alone. Later that night, after Lydia went home under police escort, I sat on the edge of Ethan's bed while he slept. His face was soft in the glow of his nightlight, his little dinosaur clutched in his fist. I brushed his hair back gently, and the tears I'd been holding in all day finally spilled over. Because I almost lost this. I almost lost him. That thought carved something permanent into me. The officers told me Lydia's ex had fled town before, slipping through the cracks. They were confident this time they could track him down, especially with the evidence from my car. But their confidence didn't erase the gnawing awareness inside me. Safety isn't guaranteed. Not by a neighborhood, not by locks on the door, not by wishful thinking. It's fragile. It's something you have to guard, fiercely. And more than that, I realized something else. When someone you trust calls you in fear, you listen. You don't dismiss it. You don't rationalize it away. Lydia's warning had saved my life, and my son's. In the days that followed, we changed everything. Security cameras went up around the house. I enrolled in a self-defense class, not because I wanted to fight, but because I wanted to be prepared. Mom stopped rolling her eyes at neighborhood watch meetings. Now she volunteered to organize them. And Ethan? He asked more questions than ever, but now they were about safety, about what to do if something scary happened again. I hated that his innocence had been cracked, but I also knew knowledge is power. Awareness is protection. As for Lydia, she and I grew closer than ever. Fear had built a wall around her life, but sharing it tore the wall down. Now she wasn't just my neighbor. She was my friend, my ally, and the reason I was still here. Looking back, that night changed me. It stripped away the illusion that bad things happen somewhere else to other people. It showed me that evil doesn't always announce itself with sirens or headlines. Sometimes it hides in the shadows of your own driveway. And yet, as terrifying as that realization is, it came with something powerful, the certainty that we are stronger when we don't face fear alone. So here's what I want to leave you with. If someone ever calls you, trembling, begging you to take them seriously, listen, even if it sounds strange, even if you don't understand why, because that one moment of listening could mean the difference between life and death. Lydia's voice is something I'll never forget. Don't start your car tomorrow morning. It still echoes in my head, and every time I think about it, I hold Ethan a little closer. I check my locks twice, and I remember that ordinary life can shatter in an instant. But if you're brave enough to face the fear, and if you trust the people who care about you, you can survive it. Because in the end, the truth is simple. Danger may be real, but so is the power of warning, of trust, and of courage. So that's my story. It's one I'll carry with me forever, and I share it not to scare you, but to remind you. Sometimes listening can save a life. If you've ever had a moment like this, or a time when a gut feeling or someone's warning protected you, I'd love to hear it. Drop it in the comments below. Your story might help someone else stay safe, too. If this video kept you on the edge of your seat, make sure you like it, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. Every interaction helps this channel grow and lets me keep bringing you real, powerful stories like this one. And remember, stay safe, trust your instincts, and always listen when someone warns you in fear. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.